And okay, I think that's it. Hello, good evening, welcome. Good to see you all. It is 7 o'clock my time here in California, which means it's some other time wherever you are if you're not in the Pacific Standard Time Zone. I find these things to be very, very important because if you know where you are and when you are, you have an inkling of your position in the space time continuum. And the space time continuum is very large. So it's important at all times to know where you are. Let me see if I've got any people coming through. Yes, I do. So good. Excellent. All right. Good to see it. We have all kinds of people checking in. As I've mentioned before several times, I am. I am unable to read comments concurrently with the reading, although at the moment I can say hello to the first few people who've checked in. I think, but it's complicated and it's not really worth explaining all over again. But the process is mystical, eldritch, and arcane. But anyway, so let me quickly say hello to the folks who have popped in here. I see Mr. Unangst. Mr. Unangst. I see Kelly checking in from Chile, Alberta. No, actually, I think Alberta is in Canada. Chile is, like Santiago and those other places. Anyway, no, I know. Terrible joke. Terrible, terrible joke. Anyway, hi, Kelly. Good to see you. Becky, hello. Good to see you, too. Kristen, greetings. Claudia, hello, Claudia. Medardo, good to have you with us, sir. Ron, hi, Ron. I'm going to be sending you stuff within probably the next week. Penny, hello, Penny. Good to see you. And Tracy, greetings, greetings. A pleasure. Barb, I just saw Barb. Was that Barban? I think that was Barban. Yes, that was Barban. Hello, Barban. Good to see you. Emily, a pleasure. As always, James. Hello, James. Timothy, more comments from Chile, Alberta. Good to see you, Timothy, and nice to have you here. Tiffany, yay, good evening. Good evening. Okay, that's fine. You can ask me the question when you see the question or when the question comes up again in the course of our readings. Again, bear in mind it's tough for me to see the comments while I'm doing the reading at the same time for various reasons. We actually had the feed just cut off in the middle last night, and I realized it's not necessarily my fault, and I didn't necessarily hit a button. It may also just be lags, and at certain points in the reading that the Facebook system or whatever just shuts it down because of the lags. I don't know if that's the case, but that seems to be the case. So if it happens, don't go away. I mean, unless it happens in the last 5 minutes or so. If it happens, don't go away, and I will just quickly restart like I did last night. Anyway, so I think I've got that. Let me see. Who else still remains to be said hello to? Angie, hello. Still in Pennsylvania, going home tomorrow. Oh, and of course you will miss your amazing grandson. I don't have any amazing grandsons. I don't have any grandchildren yet. And frankly, I'm not in a huge hurry because I don't think either of my kids are ready to be parents or any of our young people are ready to be parents quite yet. But if the day comes someday, I will be very happy because children amuse the hell out of me. Who else have I not said hello to yet? Tim, Mr. Speckins, I presume. Yes, hello. Oh, now we've got this thing where the thing keeps sliding again when I'm trying to read. And Becky just checking in from Saskatchewan. -42. Good Lord. Oh, my God. I hope you're bundled up, safe and warm. Pierre. Hello, hello. Susan. Hello. Yes, Lily is behind me sleeping. Isaac. It is 8 p.m. at the moment in the snowy mountain time zone. Or even in the non-snowy mountain time zone, I'm sure. Actually, I'm looking at the post at the moment, Angie, but I won't be able to do that while I'm reading. So, Paul, hello. 3:05 a.m. in Scotland and can't sleep. Well, I'm glad you came to join us. Josh. Josh says, gosh darn it, Tad, stop breaking the internet. I just can't help it. I just love breaking the internet. Me and Wreck-It Ralph, Ray checks in and says hello, hello, hello. And John also checks in and says hello. Did I say Josh? I think I said Josh earlier. Anyway, John says stop breaking the internet. And Jeremy just saw what you're reading. I'm impressed. You're impressed because I'm reading the same book I've been reading? Okay. I have no choice, but I'm glad you're impressed. I'm always pleased when I can impress anybody or anything over any matter whatsoever. Although impress obviously has more than one meaning and can also mean literally to squeeze something or to form something. So I guess that's a fairly general term. I'm probably impressing the seat of my chair right now with my butt, just for instance. Anyway, I'm glad if anybody is impressed by anything I do, I am eternally grateful. So, because I live to serve, or at least to amuse. Okay, so what all's been going on other than the occasional struggles with technology? And I'm working on finishing up the end of the Navigator's Children, although I still have a couple of chunks of chapters left to go, but it's moving along. Now that I'm in the last section, which is the bit that I wrote after restarting it, it goes much more smoothly, much more quickly. I don't have to make so many changes and corrections and move things back and forth across the manuscript and all that stuff. So all good. All good. We are also just in general hanging out. We celebrated one of our young people's birthday. Our oldest biological had his birthday yesterday. He is, I think he's 106, at least based on how often he actually gets up and leaves his room. In real life, considerably less, years-wise, but I'm just going by what I can observe. And God, anything else? Not really a whole lot to talk about this time. Not because everything is magically wonderful or terribly grotesquely awful, more just because it's been a working week. And with working weeks, there's not a lot to talk about. I could go into the minutia, but since I don't want to spoil anything in the new books, especially since the Navigator's Children is chock full of answers to questions that have developed over the past 6 or 7 years as the series has been coming out. I really don't dare talk about any of the stuff in it. But yeah, there's just not a lot else to report at the moment. I'm just, looking around at the world we live in and hoping that it gets a little better for most people, and including us, and obviously including all of you too. And that's really about it. So not a huge amount to talk about. Anybody else I haven't checked in with? No, everybody seems to be checked in and settled down. So maybe I'll start reading early tonight. That might be an interesting ploy that will amuse and entertain. And certainly it's for me to start talking before I've wasted the first 20 minutes or so chatting about various useless things in and of itself would be kind of a novelty. We can put that on the title for this video. Yeah, didn't really come in with anything else that I needed to discuss or wanted to discuss. We haven't had any horrifying adventures this week. The animals are all fairly calm and under control. You can see Lily there. She is absolutely calm. That is a lump of Zen cathood right there. My dear old friend from dating way back to school days, I have two friends in the sense of that I have hung on to for long parts of my life, both of them from school days. And one of them came over yesterday because he doesn't live in California anymore, but he was in town visiting. So I got to hang out with him and we got to laugh about all the kind of stuff that we normally laugh about. And like me, he is a dog person. So we had a lot of conversations about dogs. And I'm only mentioning this because he once upon a time, he, and to an extent also me, although I can't remember exactly how it happened, we evolved a theory about brown dog nature, which is a certain kind of nature that is almost always had by brown dogs, but is also a dog nature in general. And it's a kind of a Zen, I can't even express it, like the best of Zen. It's not entirely expressible. It is ineffable. It is mysterious, but it is brown dog nature, and it is a certain dog thing that they just are a certain way. And despite the fact that Johnny only has a small amount of brown on him, My friend recognizes him as being a true bearer, an avatar of brown dog nature. So we were talking about that. He and his wife have recently just adopted a second dog. Well, they'd had two dogs before, but they lost one, and they've just adopted a new one, a rescue, like ours. And so we spent a lot of time talking about the nature of doghood. So that's real, but there's not, there's not a lot to report. So I guess I will start reading. So there we go. Anyway, lovely to have you with me. Let us keep our fingers crossed that nothing goes wrong. I will try to check back on the comments from time to time, and people can tell me if we've gone off the air somehow. Jim kindly wrote in to say sorry about the Niners. Yeah, well, we lost our third and fourth quarterback of the season today, early in the game. So what are you going to do? They had a great season. They played really well. Philadelphia had the better team today, and Philadelphia won. So much luck to the Eagles. I hold no ill will against them. We didn't really get our full shot because, we'd already lost two quarterbacks during the regular season, and then our third went down at the beginning of the game today, and our fourth went down later on. So, not really a shock that we couldn't overcome a very, very good team under those circumstances. But as I said, no hard feelings on my end, and, good for them, good for everybody. I just don't like it when people get hurt, and that's true in real life as well. Tiffany, one of these days I will make sure that we do see some Johnny pics. He's a very charming dog. If you look through my photos on my Facebook section, you'll probably see a few of him because I have used him I have put him on my wall before. Becca, hello, and Melissa, hello. Good to see you both. Okay, so there. Now I said I was going to get to reading early, and I am. We were in the part of the Dragonbone Chair where first off, the treachery of Benegaris of Naban, who killed his own father in the middle of a battle, because obviously he wanted the power, but also because we presume he has made some kind of a deal with King Elias, happened, and Josua and Daernoth and the others barely escaped the field to get back into Naglamund and are now under siege for real. Then we had a section where Megwin and Eolair were called to the foot of the mountain by Skali of Kaldskreik, who revealed that they had killed and butchered Megwin's brother Gwithin. So that was pretty awful. And and that's about it. So now we are changing sections again, and we are going on to another one of the storylines. Flakes of snow filled the air. Confusing vision. Let me start that again. I have a bit of a tickle in my throat, so I may have to back up a couple times. Flakes of snow filled the air, confusing vision, waiting garments, chilling fingers and ears to a painful tingle. But Jariki and his 3 Scythi companions seemed not to mind it much. As Simon and the others plodded along on their horses, the Scythi walked jauntily ahead, often stopping to wait for the riders to catch up, patient as well-fed cats, an indecipherable serenity behind their luminous eyes. Walking all day, from sunrise to twilight, Jariki and his fellows nevertheless seemed as light-footed around the camp that night as they had at dawn. Simon hesitantly approached Anai, while the others hunted deadwood for the evening's fire. "May I ask you some questions?" he asked. The Scytha lifted his imperturbable stare. "Ask? Why was Prince Jariki's uncle angry that he decided to come with us? And why did he bring you 3 along?" Anai brought a spidery hand up to his mouth as though to cover a smile, although no smile had been present. A moment later he lowered it again, revealing the same impassive expression. "What passes between the prince and Suhei Kendrajaro is not mine to hold, so I cannot share it either." He nodded once, gravely. "As to the other, perhaps he can best answer it himself. Yes, Jiriki? Simon looked up, startled, to find the prince standing beside him, thin lips taut in a smile. Why did I bring these? Jiriki asked, making a sweeping gesture from Anai to the other two Scythi, returning from a search around the thickly forested perimeter of the camping place. Kyushapo and Sijandi I brought because someone must look after the horses. Look after the horses? Jiriki raised an eyebrow, then snapped his fingers. Troll, he called over his shoulder, if this man-child is your student, then you are a poor teacher indeed. Yes, Sailman, the horses, or did you expect to see them climb the mountains beside you? Simon was flummoxed. But climb the horses? I didn't think about... I mean to say, couldn't we just leave them? Let them go? It did not seem fair. He had never felt much more than a dangling tassel on this journey, except, of course, for the white arrow. And now the Scytha was holding him accountable for the horses. Let them go? Jiriki's voice was harsh, almost angry, but his face was bland. Leave them to perish, you mean? Once they have been ridden far beyond where they themselves would go, we should free them to struggle back across the snowy wastes or die? Simon was about to protest, to point out that it wasn't his responsibility, but decided it was not worth arguing. No, he said instead. No, we should not leave them alone to die. Beside, Sludig said, walking by with an armload of wood, how then would we get back across the wastes ourselves? Exactly, said Jiriki, his smile stretching. He was pleased. So I bring Kishapo and Sijandi. They will tend the horses and prepare things for our return. He brought the tips of his two index fingers together as if to indicate some kind of completion. Now, Anai, he continued, is a more complex matter. His reason for being here is more like mine. He looked down at the other Scytha. Honor, Anai said, our eyes downcast, staring at his own interlaced fingers. I bound the Hikastaja, the arrow-bearer. I did not show proper respect for a sacred guest. Thus I come to atone. A small debt, Jiriki said softly, when compared with my great one, but Anai will do what he must. Simon wondered if Anai had decided on his own, or if Jiriki had somehow forced him to join them. It was hard to know anything about these Scythi, how they thought, what they wanted. They were so damnably different, so slow and so subtle. Come now, Benedict announced. A tiny streamer of flame wavered before him as he fanned it with his hands. Now we are starting a fire, and I am sure you will all be interested in a little food and wine for the warming of inner spaces. In the next few days' riding, they left the northern Aldhort behind, coming down off the last decrement of the Weldhelm Hills onto the flat, snow-swept waste. It was always cold now, every long night, every dreary white day, bitter, biting cold. The snow flew continuously into Simon's face, stinging his eyes, burning and cracking his lips. His face reddened painfully, as if he had gone too long in the sun, and he could hardly hold the reins of his horse for shivering. It was like being thrown out of doors forever, a punishment that had gone on too long. Still, there was nothing he could do to remedy the situation, but offer silent prayers to Eucyrus each day for the strength to last until camp was made. At least, he reflected sadly, his ears stinging even beneath the hooded cloak, at least Benedict is having a good time. The troll was indeed in his very element, riding ahead, urging his companions on, laughing from time to time for sheer pleasure as he and Kantaka leaped along the mounting drifts. Long evenings around the fire, while the other mortal companions shivered and oiled their sleet-saturated gloves and boots. Benedict detailed the different types of snow, and various signals portending avalanches, all to prepare them for the mountains that loomed implacably on the horizon before them, stern and judgmental as gods in their crowns of white snow. Every day the great range before them seemed larger, without ever seeming a foot closer, no matter how far they strode, no matter how far they rode. After a week in the warmthless, featureless wastes, Simon began to long for the ill-rumored Dimmerskog forest, or even the wind-lashed heights of the mountains themselves. Anything but this endless, bone-chilling plain of snow. They passed the ruins of St. Skendi's Abbey on the sixth day. It was nearly covered in snowdrifts. Only the spire of the chapel protruded more than a short distance above the surface, an iron tree encircled by the coils of some serpentine beast crowning its rotting roof. Rising up through the frost-laden mist before them, it might have been a ship near sunken in a sea of purest white. Whatever secrets it may be holding, whatever it knows of Colmund, or the sword thorn it is holding them too tightly for us, Binabik said as their horses trudged past the drowning abbey. Sludig made a tree on his forehead and heart, his eyes troubled. But the Scythi circled slowly, staring, as though they had never seen anything quite so interesting. As the travelers huddled around the campfire that night, Sludig demanded to know why Jariki and his comrades had spent so much time examining the lost monastery. "Because," the prince said, "we found it pleasing." "What does that mean?" Sludig asked in irritated puzzlement, looking to Hastan and Grimrick as if they might know what the Scytha meant. "It is better not to speak of these things, perhaps," said Anai, making a flattening gesture with his spread fingers. "We are companions at this fire." Jariki looked solemnly into the fire for a moment. Then his face split in an odd, mischievous grin. Simon marveled. Sometimes it was hard to think of Jariki as being any older than himself. So young and reckless did his behavior occasionally seem. But Simon also remembered the cavern overlooking the forest. Youth and great age mixed confusedly together. That was what Jariki was like. "We stare at things that interest us," Jariki said, "just as mortals do. It is only the reasons that are different, and ours you would probably not understand." His wide smile seemed completely friendly, but now Simon detected a discordant note, something out of place. "The question, Northman," Jariki continued, "is why should our staring offend you so?" For a moment silence descended over the fire circle as Sludig stared hard at the Scythi prince. The flames popped and sputtered on the damp wood, and the wind hooted, making the horses shift nervously. Sludig lowered his eyes. "You may look at what you please, of course," he said, smiling sadly. His blond beard was flecked with melting snow. "It is only that it reminded me of Sagard, of the Skiphaven. It was as if you mocked something dear to me." "Skiphaven?" Hastan rumbled, sunk in his furs. "Never heard of it? It's the church." "Boats," Grimrick said, screwing up his narrow face in remembrance. "There's boats there." Sludig nodded, face serious. "You would say ship haven. It is where the longships of Rimmersgard lie." "But Rimmersmen dinna sail?" Hastan was surprised. "In all Ostenard no other race be so landbound." "Ah, but we did." Sludig's face glowed with reflected firelight. "Before we came across the sea, when we lived in Isgard in the Lost West, our fathers burned men and buried ships. At least that is what our tales say." "Burned men?" Simon wondered. "The dead," Sludig explained. "Our fathers built death ships of new ashwood and put the dead to flame on the water, sending their souls up with the smoke. But our great longships, those that carried us on the world's oceans and rivers, the ships that were our lives as surely as a cotsman's acre or a shepherd's flock, those we buried in the ground when they were too old to be seaworthy, so that their souls would go into the trees and make them grow straight and tall to become new ships. But that was across the ocean, you said, long ago, Grimrick pointed out. Sagard's here, is it not? In Ostenard. The Scythia around the fire were silent and unmoving, watching intently as Sludig answered. It is. That is where the keel of Elfrith's boat first touched land, and where he said, "We have come across the black ocean to a new home." Sludig looked around the circle. They buried the great longships there. Never will we go back across that dragon-hunted sea, Everett said. All along the valley floor of Sagard, at the mountain's feet, lie the mounds of the last ships. On the headland, at the water's edge, beneath the biggest howe, they buried Elvrit's ship, Sotfangsel, leaving only its tall mast thrusting up from the earth like a tree with no branches. It was that I saw in my mind when I saw the abbey. He shook his head, eyes bright with memories. Mistletoe grows on Sotfingel's mast. Every year on the day of Elvrit's death, the white berries of the mistletoe are gathered by young maidens of Sagard and taken to the church. Sludig trailed off. The fire hissed. What you do not tell, Jariki said after a while, is how your Rimmersgard people came to this land, only to drive others from it. Simon breathed in sharply. He had sensed something like this beneath the prince's placid surface. Sludig replied with surprising mildness, perhaps still thinking of the pious maidens of Sagard. I cannot undo what my ancestors have done. There is truth to that, Jariki said, but neither will we Zidaya, we Sithi, make the same mistake our kin made before us. He turned his fierce stare on Binabek, who met it solemnly. Some things should be made clear between us all, Binakega Benik. I spoke only truth when I gave my reasons for accompanying you. Some interest that I have in where you go, and a frail, unusual bond between the man-child and myself. Do not for a moment believe that I share your fears or struggles. As far as I am concerned, you and your High King may grind each other to dust. With respectfulness, Prince Jariki,